So I want to bring in Jamil Jaffer now, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Jamil, it's always good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to see you, Natasha.
So first, I want to get your take on the new Chinese sanctions just announced. China's foreign ministry has essentially banned these organizations and their leaders from having any cooperation or contact with anyone in China. Is there a tangible impact to this, or is this more symbolic?
Well, look, I think the Ronald Reagan Institute is happy to not be interacting with the Chinese government and its folks, as is Hudson. Look, it's almost a badge of honor at this point, being sanctioned by the Chinese or the Russians. It means that you're doing something, you're making an impact, you're having an effect on the effort. And frankly, the Reagan Library and the Reagan Foundation did the right thing, and the Reagan Institute by hosting President Tsai Ing-wen and the meeting there between Speaker McCarthy and the president of Taiwan.
Okay, I appreciate that. And meanwhile, U.S. intelligence shows that China's president has instructed his country's military to be ready by 2027 to invade Taiwan. Paint the picture for us. How real and present is the threat of invasion there, and what needs to be done to hold China back?
Well, look, obviously the Chinese have a very strong military, the largest standing military in the world, now the largest Navy in the world, albeit not a blue water Navy yet like ours, but certainly capable of carrying out a mission like this by 2027 if they choose to do so. And look, an amphibious landing on Taiwan and securing that island would be difficult, but the Chinese are preparing to do that. And we need to understand that if we want to effectively defend Taiwan, one, we have to clear the backlog of $19 billion of equipment that we've committed to them that we haven't yet funded. And beyond that, we've got to be able to move forces into the region, have them present there to effectively deter the Chinese from acting. Today, the Chinese don't believe that the United States would intervene militarily, notwithstanding the fact that President Biden has said, at least on 2 occasions, that he would intervene militarily if need be.
What has China's president learned from watching the invasion of Ukraine and also the U.S. response to that?
Well, look, I think that he's learned 2 things. One, don't go in until you're absolutely ready to take the area by force and to succeed on the battlefield. You know, he's seen the mistakes the Russians have made, and he's going to learn from that. The second thing he's learned is that the U.S. is not prepared to put our military on the ground to defend another nation, at least not in Eastern Europe. Whether we are in the Indo-Pacific may be a different question. But I think what he sees is that we're willing to put supplies in, but also only if and when the other side is succeeding. In this case, Ukraine. In the case of Taiwan, potentially Taiwan. And so if he can squelch any sort of response to the Taiwanese very quickly, he thinks he might be able to keep the U.S. from entering into the fight. And by the way, because the U.S. doesn't have enough forces present in the region to actually directly go up against the Chinese, right, we would have to surge forces there. He'd see them coming. He'd know they were coming. And that's why moving fast would be his takeaway from this, from the Ukraine war.
So what does U.S. support of Taiwan actually look like in the case of an invasion? Is it very similar to our support of Ukraine, no boots on the ground, but funding and also potentially training? And also, how will our economy fare in the case of a conflict with China?
You know, these are a great questions, Natasha. If you ask President Biden, and he's been asked twice in public, he said we would intervene militarily. He was asked directly, would U.S. military be involved? And he said yes. Now, within minutes of that, the White House staff walked it back. Jake Sullivan saying, well, what the president meant was we'd supply weapons to Taiwan. So there's clearly some amount of ambiguity or disagreement, we don't know which, inside of the administration on this question. There is a concern that the U.S. is not prepared to engage militarily because, as I noted before, we don't have forces in the region. It would take time to get our forces there. But beyond that, certainly providing Taiwan with what they need now, the $19 billion in backlog, the $3 billion that Congress authorized but hasn't yet funded for support to Taiwan. And then ultimately the question is, even with those weapons, can the Taiwanese succeed against a very strong, very powerful Chinese military and Navy? That's a much harder question, and one that, you know, if we don't get into now, we'll in the long run be forced into a longer term, much more difficult fight that'll be much worse for our economy than taking action now and getting ahead of it.
I appreciate it. And very last question in just about 20 seconds. Why does the U.S. need to get involved here? Why is it important that the U.S. support Taiwan in the case of an invasion by China?
2 main reasons. We would depend significantly on Taiwan for a variety of capabilities, including in particular semiconductors. But beyond that, if Taiwan were to fall to the Chinese, it's not where the Chinese Communist Party would stop. Just like with the initial invasion of Ukraine with Crimea in 2014, we see the Russians going further now. The Chinese will take advantage, and not just in the Indo-Pacific, but around the globe. That's the real challenge and why we need to be prepared to respond to an invasion of Taiwan now.
All right, Jamil Jaffer, always good to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.